reducing the ceiling on the tax refund from 6% to 4%, Right Honorable Speaker, we have saved the taxpayer 3.8 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this amount is enough to close the revenue shortfalls from the removal of the e-levy and the betting levy. Mr. Speaker, the e-levy would have accrued 1.9 billion Ghana cedis, and the betting tax would have accrued 180 million. The two put together is just about 2 billion Ghana cedis. By reducing the tax refund account from 6 to 4, it is enough to remove this tax, and the savings will be provided to take care of social interventions. Mr. Speaker, already we have saved 3.8 billion cedis for 2025 alone from one source, and this is enough to close the gap from the taxes we have removed today. Mr. Speaker, to address the concerns from well-meaning Ghanaians on how we are going to close the revenue shortfalls as a result of the removal of the selected taxes, the answer is that we have stopped the bleeding. We have stopped the bleeding. Mr. Speaker, accordingly, with this budget, we will amend the Revenue Administration Act 2016, Act 915. This measure will improve the tax revenue net of tax refund by 2%, representing 0.3% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, in line with government policy, the 2025 minimum wage recently negotiated with the National Tripartite Committee will be zero rated. This is consistent with our resolve to protect the poor and the vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, again, without increasing the levy, we will also review the Energy Sector Levies Act to consolidate the energy debt recovery, the Energy Sector Recovery Levy, and the Sanitation and Pollution Levy into one levy and use the proceeds to cater for energy sector shortfalls and service the inherited debt service obligation. Mr. Speaker, the reset has just begun. Right Honorable Speaker, the rest of the energy sector levies, including the Road Fund Levy, Energy Fund Levy, Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, Public Lighting Levy, and National Electrification Levy will remain to support the achievement of their intended objectives. Right Honorable Speaker, Ghana has not sufficiently capitalized on the benefits of its extractive sector to generate revenue to support development and diversification. We have failed to leverage our natural wealth by capturing its rents and channeling it towards productive infrastructure and human capital. Natural resource rents, which is the difference between the revenue of a commodity and the average cost of producing that commodity, is about 14% of GDP in the case of Ghana. However, Mr. Speaker, revenue from extractive industry is around 1.5% of GDP only. This is because, as a country, we have failed to fully capture the economic rents of our natural resources. Mr. Speaker, whereas global gold prices have seen some significant increase in recent times, Ghana has not been able to take full advantage of the development. Subsequently, Mr. Speaker, we are proposing to increase the growth and sustainability levy from 1% on gross production of mining companies to 3% to enable the nation to have its fair share of the windfall. Mr. Speaker, we also propose to extend the sunset clause to 2028. Mr. Speaker, we also propose to extend the sunset clause of the special import levy to 2028. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians and this Honorable House will recall that road tolls on public roads were zero rated in the year 2022. Demand for construction and improvement of road infrastructure continues to increase, even as substantial arrests and claims in the road sector remains. Right Honourable Speaker, while the annual average collection from road tolls have not been significant compared to its potential, the existing zero-rated policy for road tolls has increased the situation and dimmed the prospect of raising enough revenue from tolls to road construction and maintenance. Accordingly, government will work with the stakeholders, including the private sector, to roll out a technology-driven solution to reintroduce road tolls this year as part of the big push. Right Honourable Speaker, we will also strengthen the legal and regulatory regime for non-tax revenue and enforce the framework to improve service delivery. This will be achieved through the introduction of an overarching non-tax revenue legislation, amendment of existing relevant laws, and the development of a national non-tax revenue strategy and policy. The Speaker, as part of the reforms to improve other non-tax revenue streams, government will explore the operationalization of a regulatory framework for collection, management, and reporting of property rates consistent with our medium-term revenue strategy 2024 to 2027 and the Local Government Act. So, Speaker, we believe that the local authorities must be given the opportunity to collect their own property rates. So, Speaker, the current compliance rate for SMEs and personal income tax is below 30%, which is extremely low. Government will embark on an aggressive and sustained tax education campaign in the next 2 to 3 years to ensure improved compliance and tax revenue mobilization. We will also institute a quarterly dialogue on tax issues among the Ghana Revenue Authority, Ministry of Finance, and the business community to ensure that issues affecting businesses are addressed promptly. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to VAT reforms, VAT reforms. Right Honourable Speaker, we commit to the people of Ghana and this House, the business community, that we will undertake a comprehensive value-added tax reform this year. Mr. Speaker, with the aim to review the current distortions and cascading structure of the value-added tax regime. Ghana's effective rate, VAT rate is about 22%. This is obviously because the 2.5% Get Fund levy, the National Health Insurance levy of 2.5%, and the COVID levy are well added to the base for a final determination of what is due for VAT purposes. So, Speaker, aside the high VAT rate, businesses are not permitted by law to claim their input VAT for NHIL, Get Fund, and COVID levy, compounding the burden on households. Right Honourable Speaker, our VAT regime has been distorted and rendered inefficient. It combines both VAT and sales tax principles with a flat rate, standard rate, and levies. We have requested for technical assistance from the Fiscal Affairs Department of the IMF on VAT reforms. It is expected that the IMF mission will commence in April 2025. The recommendations from the Technical Assistance Mission are expected to inform our reform. So, Speaker, ahead of the IMF Technical Assistance Mission, I will inaugurate a VAT reform task force to hold broad consultation with key stakeholders for their input. So, Speaker, the parameters for VAT reform will be is for them to complete this year. The Speaker, the parameters will include the following: 1, abolishing the COVID levy. The Speaker, reversing the decoupling of Get Fund and NHIL VAT from VAT. The Speaker, reducing the effective VAT rate for households and businesses. Reversing the VAT flat rate regime and upwardly adjusting the VAT registration threshold to exempt micro and small businesses from the collection of VAT. The Speaker will also improve compliance through public education and awareness. So, Speaker, I now take you to revenue mobilization and resource accumulation, resource allocation. So, Speaker, Total revenue and grant for 2025 is projected at 223.8 billion Ghana cedis, or 17.2% of GDP, up from 186.5 billion, or 17.4% of GDP. The projection is underpinned by non-oil revenue measures, which are expected to yield at least 0.6% of GDP. So, Speaker, total expenditure on commitment basis for 2025 has been programmed at 269.1 billion, representing 20.7% of GDP, down from 279.2 billion, which is 26% of GDP in the year 2024. Primary expenditure on commitment basis is projected at 204.7 billion Ghana cedis, representing 15.8% of GDP, which is a significant decline from 232.4 billion, representing 21.7% of GDP in the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, based on the resource allocation from 2025 fiscal year, the total appropriations for the year ending 31st December 2025 is 290,971,212,435 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, budget financing. Right Honorable Speaker, based on the estimate for total revenue and grants and total expenditure, the projected overall balance on commitment basis is a deficit of 43.8 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 3.1% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance on commitment basis is a surplus of 20.3 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 1.5% of GDP. On cash basis, Mr. Speaker, overall balance is a deficit of 56.9 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 4.1% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance on cash basis is again a surplus of 7.3 billion, equivalent to 0.5% of GDP. Right Honorable Speaker, the cash deficit of 56.9 billion is expected to be financed from both foreign and domestic sources. The total foreign net financing will amount to 21.4 billion Ghana cedis. Foreign financing will include a provision for financing from IMF ECF program disbursed of 720 billion Ghana cedis and the World Bank Development Policy operations of 600 million Ghana cedis. The residual net domestic financing will amount to 36.9 billion, representing 65% of total financing for 2025. This is expected to be sourced from the issuance of debt at the short end of the domestic market and opening of the domestic market. So, Speaker, the government will take steps to reopen the domestic bond market to extend the maturity profile. The reopening will be executed cautiously to establish large-size benchmark bonds that will enhance market liquidity. Right Honorable Speaker, further is to reduce the risk on debt portfolio of government, and we will build cash buffers to support effective implementation of the liability management strategy. Mr. Speaker, this will help smoothing the redemption profile and mitigate refinancing risk associated with Ghana's debt portfolio. Mr. Speaker, the government in 2025 and the medium term will implement liability management operations to manage the risk embedded in the Eurobond debt profile. Right Honorable Speaker, beginning 2025, we will commence the operationalization of Section 37 to Section 44 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, we will be building sufficient buffers in the sinking fund as a landmark reform to manage our public debt. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm pleased to report to the House that following our proactive fiscal management strategy, that in our engagement with the market, this management strategy has yielded sufficient dividends. So, Speaker, on the 7th of January 2024, 2025, the NDC government inherited a 91-day Treasury bill rate of 28.19%. So, Speaker, just 2 months into this administration, we have successfully reduced this rate to 17.72% as of last Friday. So, Speaker, this represents a reduction of over 10%. In other words, 1,047 basis points in just 2 months. So, Speaker, similarly, on the 7th January 2024, we inherited a 182-day Treasury bill rate at 28.92%. We have again successfully reduced that rate to 18.97% as at Friday, 7th March 2025. This represents a reduction of 995 basis points in only 2 months. The Speaker, again, on the 7th of January 2025, we inherited a 364-day Treasury bill rate of 30.15%. We have successfully reduced this rate to 19.93% as at Friday, 7th March 2025. Mr. Speaker, this represents a reduction of 1,022 basis points in just 2 months. Mr. Speaker, on average, rates have fallen by over 1,000 basis points, signifying a strong investor confidence, crowding in the private sector, reducing the cost of doing business, and overall acceptance of economic policies of President John Dramani Mahama, ultimately laying the groundwork for sustained macroeconomic stability. It has been done already. So, Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, the key policy intervention to support economic transformation and job creation agenda include the following. So, Speaker, the 24-hour economy aimed at stimulating economic growth by creating an enabling environment for businesses and institutions to operate 24/7 in 3 shifts of 8 hours each to boost production, promote productivity, and generate well-paying jobs. We will be presenting the policy to Parliament in due course for consideration. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Act, the GIPC Act, and other enabling legislations will be reviewed to support the 24-hour economy policy. Right Honorable Speaker, we will roll out the implementation of the $10 billion Big Push policy for strategic infrastructure development to open up the country and drive sustainable economic growth. Right Honorable Speaker, the Ghana Gold Board will be established in the course of the year and as soon as possible. So, Speaker, we will stabilize the Ghana cedi and provide stability to the macroeconomy. We will implement an economic transformational agenda underpinned by structural reforms anchored on promoting modernized agriculture, agribusiness, and value addition for import substitution, export, and job creation. Mr. Speaker, we will complement monetary policy with fiscal and real sector policies to reduce inflation. Food inflation will be reduced through the implementation of the Agriculture for Economic Transformation agenda anchored on our 24-hour economy. Right Honorable Speaker, we will undertake key structural reforms to support inclusive economic growth, fiscal and debt sustainability, sound public financial management, efficient public service delivery, and good governance. The Speaker will restructure the Bank of Ghana to strengthen its independence and operationalize its efficiency mandate. The Speaker will ensure that social protection is adequately catered for in the course of the year. We will use government procurement to drive Made in Ghana agenda to promote production and consumption of Made in Ghana goods. Right Honorable Speaker, to demonstrate this agenda, as I said, I came to this House with a presentation of a bag proudly made in Ghana by Horseman. Mr. Speaker, this should be encouraged. Right Honorable Speaker, beginning this year, we will formalize the export of Ghanaian labor to other countries. We will use We will ensure a structured and beneficial system for Ghanaian workers seeking employment abroad and create safer legal pathway for them to work in foreign countries while protecting their rights and welfare. Mr. Speaker, this will also reduce illegal migration, prevent worker exploitation, and maximize the economic benefits of remittance and boost foreign exchange earnings. Mr. Speaker, I now take you to how these resources will be allocated in the year 2025. Mr. Speaker, we will provide a CD equivalent of $279 million as a revolving fund for the Ghana Gold Board to be able to purchase and export at least 3 tons of gold per week from small-scale miners. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for big push projects. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for the big push program. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 499.8 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the non-academic fee policy for all first-year students in public sector under the No Fee Stress Initiative. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated an amount of 292.4 million Ghana cedis to commence the distribution of free sanitary pads to female students in primary and secondary schools. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated again an amount of 242.5 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of Akosombo Dam spillage. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 200 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of tidal wave disaster that recently displaced residents in certain parts of Cape South constituency. Mr. Speaker, the overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of dedicated sources of financing. His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has resolved it. Mr. Speaker, let me take this again. The overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of a dedicated sources of funding. His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has resolved the funding challenges by uncapping the GET fund. Mr. Speaker, this makes available dedicated funding for full financing of free senior secondary school education and free tertiary education for persons with disability. Mr. Speaker, therefore, Capping and Realignment Act will be amended to uncap the Ghana Education Trust Fund. Mr. Speaker, this year, the budget for free senior secondary school education program is 3.5 billion Ghana cedis. By uncapping the GET fund, we will be making available an additional 4.1 billion Ghana cedis specifically for financing free secondary education programs and other related expenditures. Mr. Speaker, aside the uncapping of GET fund, we have also absorbed the debt service made up of interest and principal from the Dutch bond that GET fund contracted. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 564.6 million Ghana cedis for the provision of curriculum-based textbooks covering the following. 1, 4 sets of KG books and workbooks for about 2.8 million learners. Mr. Speaker, we have also provided for 4 sets of primary textbooks for about 800,000 learners. Mr. Speaker, We have also provided for 9 sets of SHS textbooks for about 540,000 learners. Right, Honorable Speaker, under the school feeding program, budgetary provision has been increased from the 1.3 billion Ghana cedis last year to 1.78 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, representing a 33% increase. The allocation for 2025 reflects an increase in feeding costs per meal, per child, from the 1 cedi 50 pesos to 2 cedis, representing 33.3%. Mr. Speaker, the government has also allocated 145.5 million Ghana cedis to the capitation grant, up from 84 million Ghana cedis in 2024. This is an increase of 73.4% over the previous year. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated 203 million Ghana cedis for the payment of teacher training allowances and another 480 million Ghana cedis to nursing training allowance. Mr. Speaker, we have uncapped the National Health Insurance levy. Mr. Speaker, we have uncapped the National Health Insurance levy. An amount of about 10 billion Ghana cedis has been programmed for the National Health Insurance scheme. And this amount is expected to be used for the following: claim payments, essential medicine, vaccine payments, free primary health care, the Ghana Medical Care Trust, Mr. Speaker, and bridging the USAID financing shortfall. In the year 2025, government will continue to implement reforms and increase budgetary allocation to enhance the implementation of 4 targeted social protection programs, namely National Health Insurance, the LEAP program, the school feeding program, and the capitation grant. Right, Honorable Speaker, under the LEAP program, beneficiaries will be increased from the current 350,000 to 400,000 beginning July 2025. The allocation of 728.8 million Ghana cedis for last year has been increased to 953.5 million Ghana cedis in the year 2025. So, Speaker, we have also uncapped the road fund. An amount of 2.81 billion Ghana cedis has been programmed for the Ghana Road Fund to be used solely for road maintenance. This represents an increase of 155% over the 2024 allocation of 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 7.5 billion Ghana cedis to the District Assembly Common Fund. In accordance with our decentralization policy, we propose to Parliament that a minimum of 80% of the funds allocated to the District Assembly Common Fund should be sent directly to the district assemblies to spur economic growth and at the district level to deepen decentralization. Right, Honorable Speaker, I repeat, we have allocated an amount of 7.5 billion Ghana cedis to the district assemblies common fund. So, Speaker, in accordance with our decentralization policy and objective, we propose to Parliament that a minimum of 80% of the funds should be sent directly to the district assemblies to spur economic growth at the district level and deepen decentralization. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that in a stark contrast to what has happened recently at the District Assembly Common Fund, where only 50% of the released amounts are sent to the District Assembly for the purposes of running the assemblies. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 1.5 billion Ghana cedis for Agriculture for Economic Transformational Program, of which Feed Ghana, Ghana Grains Development Project, Vegetable Development Project, and Nkoko Nketenkete are all key components of the program. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated 51.3 million Ghana cedis as seed fund for the establishment of the Women's Development Fund. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated 300 million Ghana cedis to the National Apprenticeship Program. Mr. Speaker, I repeat, we have also allocated an amount of 300 million Ghana cedis to the National Apprenticeship Program. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 100 million Ghana cedis to the Ejumewura Program. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 100 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to the National Codes Program. Mr. Speaker, another amount of 100 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the payment of monthly allowance to all Assembly members. A detailed sectorial performance and outlook, as well as sector-specific policy interventions to deal with the challenges of various MDAs. Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat this. Mr. Speaker, sector ministers will be presenting to this House a detailed sectorial performance and outlook, as well as specific sector interventions to deal with the challenges of various MDAs. This is indeed a departure from the norm, where ministers of finance present detailed sectorial performance as part of their budget speech. Mr. Speaker, I believe sector ministers must be made to do so. Right, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion. Mr. Speaker, the state of the economy, as I have presented, does not reflect an economy that has turned the corner. It reflects an economy in severe distress, burdened with debt repayment harms, mismanagement, and lack of accountability. The budget sets Ghana on a path of fiscal responsibility, debt sustainability, macroeconomic stability, and job creation. It is about resetting the economy and restoring hope. Ghanaians reaffirmed their faith in a better future when they actively participated in the National Economic Dialogue on the 3rd and 4th of March 2025. A key outcome of the dialogue was the confirmation that the fundamental problem with our economy is fiscal indiscipline. The NPP administration awarded contracts outside the expenditure framework. They borrowed over and above Ghana's capacity to repay. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahamad's administration will be fiscally disciplined and deliver improved public service to our people in a cost-effective manner. Mr. Speaker, we remain steadfast in meeting the IMF program targets while restoring Ghana's creditworthiness. We have achieved a lot in a short time, but this is only the beginning. Our commitment to reform we will not waver on that, Mr. Speaker. We have achieved a lot in this short time, and our commitment to reform will not waver. Those who doubt our resolve should not underestimate the determination of the people of Ghana, who will no longer tolerate ineffective governance. Together, we will navigate these turbulent times and emerge stronger. Mr. Speaker, we are making serious progress. Right Honorable Speaker, we are making progress. We committed to running a lean, efficient government of 60 ministers. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to scrapping the e-levy. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to scrapping the burden tax. We have delivered. Right Honorable Speaker, we committed to eliminate academic fee for first-year public tertiary students. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to providing free tertiary education for all people with disability. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to providing dedicated source of funding for free secondary education. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to distributing sanitary pads to our schoolgirls. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to uncap Get Fund. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to uncap the National Health Insurance. We have delivered. Right Honorable Speaker, we committed to uncap the road fund to maintain our roads. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to hold a national forum on education. We have delivered. Right Honorable Speaker, we committed to hold a national dialogue on the economy. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to deliver free primary health care. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to deliver Mahama Care Program to finance the treatment of non-communicable disease. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to deliver free textbooks to school children. We have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to begin the implementation of $10 million Big Push program. Mr. Speaker, we have delivered. Mr. Speaker, we committed to constitute a review process for our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, we are delivering. Mr. Speaker, we committed to build the Ghana we want together. We are delivering. Right Honorable Speaker, we committed to recover all looted state funds under our Operation Recover All Loot program. We are delivering. Mr. Speaker, we committed to reset Ghana. We are delivering. Right Honorable Speaker, I call on Parliament, the business community, civil society, investors, and all citizens to support the bold reforms outlined in this budget. Together, Mr. Speaker, we have the power to build a resilient economy that will help us tackle the challenges we face as a country. This budget is a foundation upon which we will build a more resilient and equitable society. Mr. Speaker, this budget is not just about numbers. It is about a blueprint for growth, stability, and opportunity. With unity and determination, we can restore faith in our economy, foster innovation, and uplift every Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, with unity and determination, I repeat, we can restore faith in our economy, foster innovation, and uplift every Ghanaian. Right Honorable Speaker, on behalf of His Excellency the President, I invite this House to join hands with us as we work to build the Ghana we want together. Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much. It be a